Alright guys, welcome to the wild world of drywall repair. It's no place for amateurs, but you gotta start somewhere, and if you don't have any experience doing stuff like this, then nobody's gonna hire you or pay you to do stuff. So I guess the difficult situation you're probably working with is, how do I learn how to do this if no one's going to teach me? And no one's going to pay me if I don't know this. So here you go. And this is it. Right now, this is a hole in a wall. I cut a piece of drywall, fit the hole, tried to cut the hole square so that the drywall could go into it nice and evenly, or get it as close as I can. And then on my side here, I got a trowel. I have a bucket of drywall compound. This came pre-mixed from Menards. You could either mix your own drywall compound, but I just prefer the consistency that comes with the factory mixed drywall compound they sell on the shelf. About $13, you get yourself a whole bucket. It's not 5 gallons, I think it's 3 gallons, but it's still a lot. I was working on another project, so I was able to come right over from that project to this project and have all my tools handy and ready. And but if you're just gonna mix some drywall, for a small fix, it might not make sense to have a big bucket like that. So that's where I'm at with that. You got different options when it comes to drywall, as in filling the gaps. Are you going to use tape or mesh? And a lot of people it's different preferable preference. The tape, the paper tape is more malleable. They also say get it wet once you put it on, because when you get it wet, it just lays real smoothly. But what I've learned is that when it's dry, it's like really stiff, and it gives you a stiff finish. You put your wet compound on, or this ain't even wet, but when you do, and I'm doing a stack method right here to close the gap, so I'm stacking them up, filling that gap. And but when the tape is wet, I notice sometimes that I'll get like a bubble in where the tape will bubble, and it'll be like this pocket of air, loose pocket of air behind it, and it won't just sit flat or whatever. So you won't see me wetting this down very much during this process, but I do know that when I go into the corners using the paper tape, it gives a really clean finish to corners, like where the ceiling hits the wall. But then again, it's technical as to how much compound you have to use. I've seen a lot of professional drywallers, they sit there with their trowel and really just cake on that compound right over the tape. Me, I developed this strategy when I'm doing my corners where I use a watered down compound and a brush, and I brush the compound over the tape, and it gives it a smooth finish. That's way faster than all this trowel work. I'm not used to having to do so much troweling with a flat blade like that, but it is what it is, and that's just part of what you're doing with drywall repair. It's, as a painter, you run into different trades like carpentry and drywall. When I first started out as a house painter, I just basically stuck to the painting aspect and the craft, and there was always somebody else on my team who would knew how to handle rotten wood on a job site or something like that. They'd have their the setup, whatever, for the wood to be repaired, and as well as paint it while you're all up there. A lot of the key things to why I have a big pile of stuff at my feet is because when you're in one spot, it's really crucial to be as effective as possible. When you walk up a ladder, to bring everything with you when you go up there, so you'll see big tool belts on people and stuff. And that's usually just because you want to be as effective as you possibly can without having to run back and forth and you want to be able to get everything you could reach as a painter, in like the radius of your arm span. So if you're a taller person with like a longer reach, you could totally excel even at just your ability to reach, and cover more area with your reach. But yeah, smoothing it on, I layered the tape up from the bottom, the paper, and then I layered it on throughout the circle of the square, and now I'm just trying to put enough compound on. I'm not in a hurry. Typically you're in a time rush or being paid by the hour when it comes to compound like this, and a typical thing I would do would have a hair dryer, because when you're patching a hole, usually it's to paint it almost as immediately as possible, and that's part of like a room's completion and the steps in order for operations. Prep. This would be part of prep. This is a patch right here. That's a giant metal mesh patch. Now, after I worked my way up from the bottom, these are really handy. This covers a lot of space. I mean, it's a thin sheet of metal and mesh. You take off the paper backing and then the clear plastic cover, and it actually has sticky adhesive on the back. I mean, that's probably the best product I've ever seen so far as just covering a straight hole. There doesn't even have to be anything behind that. There could be a straight up big hole in a wall, and you could just throw that patch on it and just go over it with compound and literally be done with your hole repair. So if you're looking to learn about hole repair, that is it right there. That piece of metal mesh. It's a little bit more pricey, but in regards of the best possible outcome, the metal is really strong, and it's a really good hole patch repair, which is basically what this is. I went down with drywall first because I just had it available, and it's good to have some foundation behind that. But if you didn't have that option, that metal mesh patch with the sticky adhesive on the back, literally you could just throw that at a hole and go over it with this compound, and that would instantly fix the entire hole. So smooth it out. You want to feather out and thicken to light. You'll get a feel for it. It's just at your own discretion usually, but you're having thick areas and light areas, and when you do it, to go really thick over the bumps, because when this stuff dries, it actually loses some of the moisture and sucks into itself. So I will throw a hump over a crack, like if I'm covering a crack, slightly go thicker over the crack instead of just really light. If you go really light, it'll just you'll see the indentation, and then when it dries, it'll even be further. It'll probably crack. So having a thick, and it's a balance. It depends on how accurate you are. That's your skills and abilities. This property was just not that. It wasn't like they were breaking the bank on the beauty or anything like that. I'm thinking that this was like a low end rental, so I wasn't too concerned about making this look absolutely pristine or anything like that. But I've been in a lot of arenas in my painting career where close cuts and extremely flat walls, and just tricks as to how you could get that consistency with the rest of the house, because people have an eye for that. Some people have an eye for detail, and then if you're just in some throw together kind of situation, which is what I considered this, I'm just basically putting material on there, getting it all covered, ready to go, and just a solid repair. Definitely solid, because if you notice, I use a lot of materials. A person's time is worth much more than material. So if you're going lightweight with a small amount of materials, you're going to end up losing time. Whereas if you have what I'm saying, a bulk amount of material, it's just throw it on there and take it off. Alright guys, that's how you patch a hole of drywall in a wall. Kind of easy, kind of simple, keeping it fresh. You guys have a good evening.